Hi everyone, and welcome to today's video where we're going to be doing a guide for Albania for EU4 1.36 King of Kings. So Albania is a nation located in the Balkans. We start off with these two provinces right here and these two cores that we're going to have to reconquer from the Ottomans and Venice as well. We also start off guaranteed by Venice, which you may think gives us a little bit of security from the Ottomans, but as we all know, in AI games, the Ottomans always declare either way. Additionally, many newer players are deterred from playing Albania due to its sort of difficult starting position right here and the fear of the Ottomans looming, but make no mistake, Albania is actually the easiest nation over in this region to play, at least the easiest minor nation, easier than these three guys over here, Wallachia, Moldavia, Byzantium, these guys down here, due to various factors. The first being that even though we have Orthodox provinces, we actually start off as Catholic, and the other being that we start off with the most powerful scripted ruler in the game, Skanderbeg right here, who's a 6'5'6" inspiring leader and silver tongue, and he's also an amazing general, being a 5'5'1" general, which makes him absolutely insanely powerful. Albania has a small-ish mission tree, but still decent for a nation of its size, and Albania missions are pretty good for defensive-focused gameplay, starting off with plus 10% manpower recovery speed and plus 20% fort defense, finishing off with minus 1% yearly army tradition decay. And in the meantime, we have plus 20% land force limit, plus 1 land leader maneuver, yearly prestige, plus 50% cavalry flanking ability, minus 10% stab cost, torrents of heretics and heathens, and plus 15% national manpower, which makes Albanian ideas pretty good. By playing as Albania, you will start off by conquering your small-ish neighbors to the north and actually allying major powers that will enable you to take down the Ottomans very soon, and in just 2 wars versus the Ottomans, we'll be able to own all of their possessions over in the Balkans. So Albania, you may think it's a really difficult nation, but it's actually not, and that's exactly what I'm going to show you. So sit back, relax, and learn what you need to do as Albania. Alright, here we are as Albania, and the first thing you're gonna do is you're gonna right click on yourself, go into the estates right here, and summon the Diet. You can pick whichever agenda is best for you. If you get an agenda that gives you claims on these Serbian provinces, definitely go ahead and take it. In my game, I didn't have that agenda. Next, we're going to give the clergy religious state and clerical advisory council, along with religious diplomats and clerical education. Then we're going to give the nobles primacy of the nobility, increased levies, and aristocratic councillors. And we're also going to give the burghers land of commerce, patronage of the arts, commercial advisory board, and indebted to the burghers. Then we're going to seize land. Additionally, I should mention that we are going to be flipping Orthodox later on, so don't worry about that, but at the start right here, we are staying Catholic. Next, we're not going to set any rivals just yet, and instead we're going to right click on the Ottomans right here, show diplomatic feedback, and set our attitude towards them as threatened. This will make their rivals more likely to ally us. Then you're going to go ahead and look for a Diplo advisor, make it a Diplo rep or improve relations advisor, hire him even if he's a level 2 guy. In my game, both of them are actually available and both of them are level 1, so I am going to hire this Diplo rep guy who is slightly better than the improve relations guy. Hire him even if he's a level 2 guy. Let me stress that. Next, we're going to take these 2 light ships right here, tell them to protect trade in Ragusa and go home during war. And if you haven't gotten claims on Serbia from your estate agenda, for now, you can turn off your forts, lower army maintenance, and take this army and delete the cavalry regiment to save some money. If you did get a claim on Serbia from your estate agenda, don't do any of these things since you're going to be declaring on them very soon. Next, we're also going to take this free merchant right here, put him in Vienna, tell him to collect trade, and then once he's there in 6 days, we're going to tell him to establish communities. This will increase our improved relations modifier in that trade node, and it'll help us ally Austria faster. Next, you're going to go into the production interface right here in the dynastic actions and in the royal marriages tab, and you will see that you are able to immediately royal marry Aragon and Hungary right off the bat. This is possible in every single test run that I've done, so I can pretty much guarantee that you'll be able to royal marry these guys. So what you're going to do is you're going to royal marry Aragon, and after a little bit of improving relations, you will be able to ally them, and then you're going to royal marry Hungary as well. And after a little bit of improving relations, or maybe even instantly, you will be able to ally them as well. Now what we're waiting for is for these diplomats to come back, and for this merchant to arrive in the Vienna trade node. Once one of our diplomats is back, we're gonna send a scornful insult to an Austrian rival, but not the Ottomans. I've noticed that if you send a scornful insult to the Ottomans, they tend to guarantee Serbia, which of course is gonna make it hard for us to fight our first war versus Serbia, and if the Ottomans guarantee Serbia, our first war is gonna have to be versus the Ottomans. So send a scornful insult to an Austrian rival, not the Ottomans. In my game, I'm just gonna send a scornful insult to Provence right here. Additionally, this merchant is now in Vienna. I am going to tell him to establish communities. Now that this other diplomat is back, you may be able to royal marry Austria if you can't start improving relations with them. If you can, of course, royal marry them, and then you will be able to ally them as well. Once again, when the diplomats are back, you are gonna start spying on Serbia if you haven't gotten a claim from them on your agenda. If you have, you are gonna declare on Serbia as fast as possible. They usually will be allied to Bosnia, that's their only ally. Sometimes they're allied to Byzantium. No matter, with Skanderbeg in charge of your army and by recruiting the Free Company, you can easily defeat them. Of course, I'll show you how to do that when I declare my war versus them. At this point, almost 2 months have passed and I've allied Austria and Hungary, and I'm working to ally Aragon. Usually, you're gonna ally Aragon and Hungary and work to ally Austria, but in my game, it just turned out like this. So, whichever one of these 3 guys you haven't allied, you're gonna improve relations with them in order to ally them. All 3 are easily gettable. In my game, even though I didn't scornfully insult the Ottomans, they've still ended up guaranteeing Serbia. And if this does happen in your game as well, don't worry, there's no need to restart and do everything all over again, because it's just a minor setback. Normally, you would declare war on Serbia and Bosnia first and take over all of these provinces before fighting the Ottomans. However, if this guarantee is active right here, we're just gonna fight the Ottomans first. It's really no big deal. Another alternative route of expansion is fighting Venice first with the help of Austria, Hungary, and Aragon. But that doesn't usually happen. Usually you fight Serbia or the Ottomans first. If the Ottomans did end up anyway guaranteeing Serbia like in my game, then you can go ahead and set your rivals. Basically rival the nations that have rivaled you. If the Ottomans haven't guaranteed Serbia, you're gonna rival them right before you declare war on them. Now I'm also able to ally Aragon. Usually you're able to do this way faster than I did. After you've allied Aragon, you can also work to ally the Pope. This would be a sort of useful alliance, but it's definitely not necessary. Usually around this point, if the Ottomans haven't guaranteed Serbia, after you've gotten claims on these 2 provinces, now is when you declare on them. However, in my game, I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna be fighting the Ottomans first. While you're in this war with Serbia, or while you're waiting to declare on the Ottomans, you can go ahead and curry favors with your allies that are gonna help you versus the Ottomans. If you're gonna fight the Ottomans first, or even second, you actually need to wait for them to fight Byzantium first so they take over all of Byzantium's provinces, because we want to release Byzantium in our first war versus the Ottomans, and we can't do that if Byzantium exists. Another possible alliance you can try and get before you fight the Ottomans is Poland right here, although it is pretty rare that you're able to get them. Either way, if these modifiers are close to each other, definitely doesn't hurt to try. And by the time the Ottomans annexed Byzantium over here in my game, I've actually curried 10 favors with my 3 important allies, Aragon, Austria, and Hungary. At this point, I've also managed to ally the Pope. Like I said, this isn't necessary, but it won't hurt either, and I'm still guaranteed by Venice. Obviously, you will as well. Now, some of you, by this point, you've already conquered the territories of Serbia and Bosnia. And of course, I'll tell you what to do with those territories and so on in this area later after I fight those guys in my second war. But this is going to be my first war versus the Ottomans right here. So, no matter who your first war is, before you declare it, you're obviously going to activate your forts and raise army maintenance. And then you're going to take out a couple of loans right here. Don't worry about your economy at the start. We'll be getting a lot of money soon. And you're going to hire the Free Company as well. Then you're going to put Skanderbeg in charge of your main army right here, merge the Free Company with it, and that's going to be your main stack right there. And once you're ready to declare on the Ottomans, what we're waiting for is for them to get into a war with someone over in Anatolia. At this point, of course, you can also fire your Diplorep advisor in order to save some money. And there we go, the Ottomans have started their first war, and it's actually versus the Mamluks, not something very common, but I do think, yeah, this is the Syrian War for Independence. So, really doesn't matter, you really want them fighting anyone over here, Trebizond, Karaman, Ramazan, Dulkadir, it really doesn't matter. This is a little bit lucky for me, I have to admit, since they're fighting such a massive war, but hopefully that negates my bad luck with them guaranteeing Serbia. So, whenever they declare on someone over here, wait for a couple of months for them to move their armies over there, and then we're going to declare as well. At this point, you can start spying on them as well to get some sieges done a little bit faster. And there we go, now that I know the Ottomans have moved all of their armies over in this region, I am going to be declaring. My allies Hungary, Austria, and Aragon are willing to join. It will be the same situation in your game as well. So there we go, simply declare a reconquest for your core Avalonia right here, and there's your first war with the Ottomans started. Like I said, some of you by this point, you may own all of these provinces as well. More on that later. I do also recommend activating the defensive edict in your capital state right here. This is how my war with the Ottomans is going right now, pretty decent I would say. Either way, for your tier 2 government reform, I do recommend strength and noble privileges. We do need the additional manpower. Something I didn't mention is we do start off with a unique tier 1 government reform, very cool for a nation of this size, the League of Leger right here, which gives us +1 attrition for armies, plus 25% fort defense, so even more defensiveness, and plus 10% morale damage. Additionally, winning battles which are led by the ruler increases our legitimacy or government thingy by 0.5. Even if you haven't embraced the Renaissance during your war with the Ottomans, if you have the ability to take Miltech 5, even though it's more expensive than it should be, definitely go ahead and do it. If you're maxing out on points during this point, you can start developing the Renaissance in your capital right here. Make sure to activate Encourage Development though. If you do not manage to cross this strait, it's totally fine to just siege down the entirety of the Balkans and stay there. No need to move into Anatolia. If you do manage to cross, well, you can go ahead and start sieging stuff over here too. I just got stabbed from an event in my game, and I also just built up one more regiment right here just so I can take the mission Skanderbeg's Rebellion, which gives us infantry combat ability plus 10% along with plus 10% movement speed for 20 years. A pretty nice mission that will help out a little bit in your starting wars with Serbia, Bosnia, and the Ottomans. Right now I just managed to white piece Akynlu after they lost their army over here, and I have about 90% war score versus the Ottomans, which is about enough for your first war versus them. And as you can see, it was very simple thanks to the help of my allies. Even though Aragon didn't actually manage to come over and help, which usually they are able to come, they still managed to get the Ottoman army to go over here in Sicily to siege them down, which of course helped us out over here. Either way, once your first war with the Ottomans is done, here's what I recommend taking. I recommend getting war reps because we are going to have a little bit of money right at the start. Then I also recommend getting the following provinces. This one, this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one. So one province right here that we can release Bulgaria from, a bunch of provinces over here that we can release Byzantium from, most notably Constantinople and Salonik, two fort provinces, which are super important. Then you're obviously going to get your core back in Avalonia, and then for the rest of the war score, take a couple of ducats, which isn't really that relevant, and you might not even get that much from it. Either way, that's your first war with the Ottomans done. Now, if you haven't fought Serbia yet, and if Serbia have been guaranteed by the Ottomans, just like in my game, now, before you peace out with the Ottomans, is when you declare war on Serbia. Alternatively, you could not do this, declare war on Serbia, have the Ottomans come in, and just white peace the Ottomans to reset your truce with them. It's totally up to you which of those two options you take. I recommend not declaring on Serbia now, fighting the Ottomans again, and white piecing them to reset your truce for more experienced players, and for newer players, I recommend simply declaring on Serbia for the conquest of Kosovo before you peace out the Ottomans. That's what I'm gonna do right now, and I'm gonna call in the Pope. Make sure to co-belligerent Bosnia in this war. In 99% of the games, in your war versus Serbia, you're gonna fight them, Bosnia, and Sil, just like it is in my game. So there we go, I'm gonna declare. Now that I've declared on them, now I'm gonna peace out the Ottomans for what I just told you. And there you go, that's your first war with the Ottomans done. Of course, right now I can't release Bulgaria and Byzantium, which means I'm gonna stay a little bit overextended until I get my war with Serbia and Bosnia done. But no big deal, we'll get there when we get there. Now that I've declared on these guys, additionally, I can call in Hungary. But don't make this mistake. Do not call in Hungary into this war versus Serbia and Bosnia. This is because obviously they want land over here and they'll siege stuff and not give it to you even if you've already set these provinces as provinces of interest. Either way, your war with Serbia and Bosnia should be a walk in the park. You'll have a Miltech over them and you have Skanderbeg. Make sure to pay off a bunch of loans after you finish your war with the Ottomans in order to not go bankrupt. Obviously, take out bigger loans to pay off smaller loans. And once you wrap up your war with Serbia and Bosnia, here's what I recommend doing. I recommend separate piecing Bosnia and making them your vassal and taking all of their money, just like that. And then I recommend full annexing Serbia and taking all their money, just like that. And there we go, that's that war done. Now keep in mind that after you do this, Hungary may sometimes break their alliance with you, in which case you would have fewer allies in your war versus the Ottomans. So maybe actually it is better to fight the Ottomans first, either way, even if you can fight Serbia first, but do it at your discretion, of course. Now, finally, after this war is done for me, I will be releasing the nations of Byzantium and the nation of Bulgaria as well. And there we go. In our next war with the Ottomans, we can reconquer these Byzantine cores and these Bulgarian cores. Because you're so small yourself and you have 2 or 3 subjects at this point, some of them may be rebellious, but don't worry, it's not going to be a problem. Once you do have 2 subjects, of course give the nobility strong duchies. Once you have wrapped up your initial 2 wars with these guys and with the Ottomans, it is time to chill for a couple of years and recover, work on our economy, develop the gold mine in Kosovo, build a couple of buildings if we can, pay off loans and stuff like that. Now that we've done this, we're pretty much waiting for our truce with the Ottomans to expire so we can fight them again. In the meantime, while you're waiting, you can, if you want to, and if you have the possibility, fight Venice in order to take a bunch of provinces from them over here. As we can see, thanks to the Ottoman war reps and the knowledge sharing, by this point I've paid off all my loans. And after you get the gold mine, you'll definitely be paying off all of your loans. Then you can go ahead and take new loans, of course. Just like that, there's indebted to the burghers, and you can start building buildings. After you get these 2 wars done, there's no longer a need for us to remain Catholic because Orthodox is also a really powerful religion as well. Even more powerful than Catholic if you're not using the papal bonuses right here. Either way, with so much Orthodox provinces, it's literally a no-brainer. So, after these wars are done, you can go ahead and send a missionary around your provinces until Orthodox zealots spawn. In my game, I sent them to this province right here, and those Serbian separatists from there turned into Orthodox zealots. Once these guys show up over here, simply go ahead and accept their demands, and Orthodox will become the new state religion of Albania. And there we go, just like that, we've become Orthodox. Perfect. Only do this after your initial 2 wars though. Of course, once you core up everything from Serbia, make sure to full state all of these provinces just like that. Activate the Encourage Development State Edict in this state right here, and make sure to develop this gold mine up to 10 production. And there we go, in my game, Hungary did break their alliance with me. This is completely expected after you take these provinces over here. So keep in mind, this may be a reason to fight the Ottomans first. Once you develop the gold mine up to 10, make sure to lower autonomy as well. Later on, when you have the Diplo points, accept Serbian culture as well. And there you go, money is no longer an issue. Of course, now thanks to your vassals and the gold mine, you are able to create and sustain a much larger army. So build up your army. If you got lucky during this point, the Mamluks or someone else like that might declare on the Ottomans in order to shrink them down even more. Of course, in my game, that can't happen because, well, they did have a truce. But either way, the Ottomans are fighting these guys right here. But still, I expect the Ottomans to win. When you start making money, I also recommend getting rid of your transports and building up the galley fleet quite significantly, as much as you can. This will help us blockade the Ottomans over here later on and prevent them from crossing. Something else that I should mention is if Hungary does break their alliance with you and you can't re-ally them, and Austria hasn't gotten them as a junior partner, well, then they become a target as well. So that means I can go ahead and fight Herzegovina right here without worrying about what happens with Hungary, and even Austria and the Pope would help out, which means we can knock out Hungary easily and nab a couple of provinces from them in the region of the Balkans as well. Once you hit Admin Tech 5, it will be time for a first idea group, and for your first idea group as Albania, I do recommend defensive ideas. I think by now you've gotten why. Because we have the plus 20% fort defense in our national ideas right here, we also have this government type which gives us attrition for enemies and fort defense as well. So why not lean into the whole defensiveness thing, be super fortified, buff up our morale even more land leader maneuver along with the one we have from our government type, and awesome fort bonuses, garrison size, and attrition bonuses over here. Additionally, defensive is going to mesh very well with other idea groups that we're going to be taking later down the line, such as even more attrition and unrest with religious, because obviously you have to take religious as an Orthodox nation. So for a fun playthrough, I definitely recommend defensive ideas. If you don't think the bonuses are good enough or meta enough or optimal enough for you, then you can definitely go with something like offensive or quality as well. But for the most fun playthrough, I do recommend defensive. At this point, you can start focusing on mill to get it done faster. Of course, like I said, while you're waiting for the truce with the Ottomans to expire, you could potentially fight other nations around you if you have the opportunity, such as any minor nations that are left over here, Venice, and even Hungary if they have broken their alliance with you and they're not allied to any other stronger guys. What I'm going to do in my game is declare a reconquest on Herzegovina right here for Bosnia scores, because Austria and the Pope would help me out versus Hungary. If you do end up fighting Hungary, whether like this, if they're an ally, and by the way, I can't co-belligerent them because then Austria wouldn't come in. Either way, if you do end up fighting them, what you need to focus on taking from them is their provinces over in the Balkans, which are these two provinces right here and everything that Croatia owns. This up here in the Pest trade node, in the provinces not in the Balkans, in the Carpathia region, they really aren't too relevant for us in an Albania playthrough. So you could expand it this way if you want to, although it's not really necessary. Either way, there's my declaration on Herzegovina. In this war, I'm going to give these two cores back to Bosnia, and I'm going to take a couple of provinces from myself from Hungary. There we go. If you fight Venice, of course, I'll show you what to take from them once I fight them as well. Also, no need to use Skanderbeg anymore after your initial 2 wars. As good of a general he is, we really want him more as our ruler, and he's 62 in my game, so he's pretty close to going. Once 1468 hits, you will be able to take the mission Stand Against the Turks, where we get +1 Diplorep, plus 20% improved relations for 20 years, and a bunch of nations that could potentially help us versus the Ottomans, at least nations that the game thinks can potentially help us with the Ottomans, start liking us a little bit more. And now that I've defeated Hungary enough, what I'm gonna do with them is get war reps right here, get these 2 provinces. We don't really want too much because they're not co-belligerented in my case. If of course they're the primary belligerent in your game, what I recommend that you take from them is the entirety of their possessions in the Balkans, so these 2 provinces and all of Croatia. But if you're doing something like this, then a couple of provinces are enough, and then I'm also gonna humiliate them and get some money as well. And that's my peace deal with Hungary done. And now I'm gonna peace out Herzegovina as well and give these 2 cores back to Bosnia. And there we go. That's a war wrapped up while we're waiting to fight the Ottomans. At this point, since I have the Diplo points, I'm also gonna promote Serbian culture. Right now in 1470, I'm still knowledge sharing. Make sure to not miss out on the income from this, no matter how small it is. I've shared it to Austria, to Hungary, to Aragon, to my subjects, and now I'm sharing it to Lithuania. Of course, a new champion of the joust is always nice. Let's see what he is. If he's super powerful, of course, I won't be using it since this is a guide and I don't want it to influence my campaign too much. And let's check him out. He is actually super insane. So a 4-3-4, which is pretty good, honestly, but then this 4 siege is absolutely insane. Now, because 90% of you guys won't get a general like this in your campaign, what I'm gonna do to not influence my campaign too much is simply dismiss him, and I'll get the prestige and legitimacy back by using the console. While you're waiting for your truce with the Ottomans to expire, there really is no limit on which nations and how many nations you want to fight. If you've wrapped up Herzegovina, maybe you fought Hungary as well, you can also fight Venice if you want to as well. I just haven't had the opportunity to do it until now, because until recently, Austria actually liked Venice and didn't want to help me fight them. But by now, the truce with the Ottomans is too close to expiring, so I'm gonna hold it off for later. For your first stage ability, you should of course take Justified Wars. Of course, whenever the estates are above 50 loyalty, make sure to seize land, and don't forget to lower autonomy either. Right now, I can also ally Poland, which is very nice. Like I said, this isn't that likely in the early point of the game, even though it is sometimes possible, but later on you will be able to do it as well. There's another nation that is 99% of the time also gonna help you out with the Ottomans, which is great for us. We'll still need a little bit of help to fight them in our second war. But after that, you can totally do it alone. For your Tier 3 government reform, I recommend Representatives of the Crown. This gives vassals and marches an additional 25% national tax. We gain a diplo relation and vassal force limit contribution bonuses as well. This is really good because we are playing with vassals heavily already, as you can see. We already have 3 vassals, and we're going to continue playing with vassals in all of the regions that we're going to continue to expand in, which are pretty much the regions of the Eastern Roman Empire for now, but later on you could go for a Roman Empire run or something like that as well. So we got Bosnia, Bulgaria, and Byzantium. Later on, maybe you could do a release and reconquer for a bunch of nations in Anatolia as well, like Eretna, Karaman, Germian, and stuff like that. Over here we have Syria. If you're going in this direction, we have Iraq. So a bunch of nations that are potentially gonna be our subjects. If you're not playing with subjects, then I recommend centralized bureaucracy or expanded royal court. However, this is the best. Now my truce with the Ottomans is up, and once yours is up, you're gonna be declaring on them as well. Austria would help out as well, along with the Pope, but I'm no longer allied to Aragon because the Iberian wedding happened and Castile got them as our junior partner. Also, I'm not allied to Hungary anymore because they broke their alliance with me. So what I'm gonna wait for here is to get 10 favors with Poland because they would help out. So pretty much I'm replacing Aragon and Hungary with Poland and Lithuania. But like I said, after the second war with them, you won't need any more help. You'll be powerful enough on your own. And now that I've gotten 10 favors with Poland, I will be declaring on the Ottomans right here. Declare on them using a reconquest for some of Byzantium's cores. For example, in my game, I'm going to declare for Edirne, even though it's no longer the Ottomans' capital, they've already moved it over here. And I'm going to call in Poland and their boys, Austria, and the Pope. There we go. Very simple. In this war, we're going to retake Byzantium and Bulgaria's cores. As you can see, I've been spying on the Ottomans this whole time. I'm almost at 100 spy network. This isn't to get claims on them. This is so we can get sieges done faster. Of course, once you do have a spy network of over 50 on the Ottomans, you will be able to take the mission Inspire Resistance, where we gain plus 25% rebel support efficiency until the end of the game, which isn't that relevant, and we don't use it too much. Additionally, all Christian provinces owned by the Ottomans in the Balkans will get plus 10 unrest. This isn't too relevant while you're at war with them, since you don't want the rebels popping up, but you can take this mission if you want to, and if you can after your first war with them. Either way, I'm not going to take it now just yet because I don't want the rebels. And once your second war with the Ottomans is done, here's what I recommend taking. I recommend giving all of Byzantium's cores back to them, just like that. Then we can take any additional provinces down here that they may own for ourselves. In my game, that's just Cephalonia, so I am going to be taking it. And then you could also do something like this, for example, to trap this area right here without the Ottomans having access. And of course, you all know the deal, Bulgarian separatists can rise up and we can get those cores for free back to Bulgaria. Although in my experience, that strategy never works because the Ottomans always find a way to get access to over here. Either way, even without that, we're still going to be doing this because we want to get this in our later wars with them. And keep in mind, you can't take over all of the Balkans in this one single war versus the Ottomans. Unless, of course, you've taken more in the initial war, but we actually wanted the war ups and money and stuff like that then along with our cores, so that's why we didn't take more. So, all of Byzantium's cores back, these 3 cores right here back to Bulgaria, and then you can take some additional provinces down here, like these 2 for yourself, for example. Let me just check that they're owned by me. Yes, they are, in order to be able to easily cross in your next wars versus the Ottomans. So this is sort of what your peace deal with the Ottomans in your second war should look like. And there we go, that's our second war with the Ottomans done. The next one will be super easy. We'll kick them out of the Balkans. We'll expand in Anatolia even more. Super nice. And don't worry if someone else takes this either way, like Hungary, Poland, Moldavia, Wallachia, anyone like that. We'll just fight them for it later. Of course, once you've given Byzantium all of its cores back, you can definitely go ahead and give the nobility the integration policy and start annexing them. Once you hit admin tax 7, it will be time for your second idea group. And like I mentioned earlier, obviously as an Orthodox nation, you're going to be going with religious ideas. Super powerful for such a small religion, and I'm talking land ownership size. Obviously, we are going to want to convert all of these Sunni provinces that we conquer in Anatolia and the Mashriq in Egypt, and we're expanding over here in this direction as well, maybe even in Italy, so we do want to convert Catholic as well. Super useful, and we'll have access to this awesome CB as well. So religious ideas for your second idea group. Of course, once again, while we're waiting for the Ottomans' truce to expire to continue expanding into them, they're still our main rival, by the way, even though we're way more powerful than them now. You can continue on with other wars. Maybe fight someone that has taken any Ottoman provinces over here. You could fight Hungary for provinces here, fight Venice for provinces here, and if you have the opportunity, you could start pushing into the southern portion of Italy as well. I could be declaring on Naples right here, unless, of course, they get PU'd by France. So fight any other minor wars you can find. And of course, don't forget to work on improving your nation economically. For your second age ability, I actually recommend adaptive combat terrain. Right now, I can notice that it's a pretty good time to declare on Venice. Their ally Savoy won't join, and my allies Austria and the Pope will. So, whenever you can and whenever you want to, go ahead and fight Venice. A lot of you, by 1482, which is the date in my game, will have already fought Venice. So, simply declare a reconquest for your core Durazzo right here, fight Venice, and take everything that they own in the Balkans. Provinces down here in the Greek islands, provinces over here on the Dalmatian coast, take it all. While you're Orthodox, if you end up fighting a minor Italian nation, which honestly you should do by this point, make sure to force religion on them. It'll take off an age objective for the Age of Reformation. And once you have enough war score with Venice to take all of the provinces located in the Balkans and maybe a little bit of money in war reps, you can go ahead and peace out. And there we go. That's your war with Venice done. Once you get your core back from them, you will be able to take the mission Lord of Albania, where we gain 200 mil points and a claim on all of the Ottoman provinces in the Balkan region. Of course, that isn't too relevant to us right here because we're doing a reconquest for Bulgaria and Byzantium scores. And speaking of Bulgaria's scores, this is what Hungary has taken over, so that's actually pretty good. We can fight Hungary for these provinces instead of the Ottomans and focus on taking more from the Ottomans in Anatolia. Additionally, this is where the Mamluks have expanded, so I'll be fighting them pretty soon as well. If you were lucky enough in your campaign, Byzantine separatists might have spawned in the Knights and you might have gotten roads for free. It does happen pretty often. Right now in my game, I can notice an excellent opportunity. Hungary has allied Muscovy, but even though they're so big and powerful, they aren't willing to help them out in this war. And my ally Poland is willing to help me out. So there we go. There's a declaration on Hungary to reconquer Bulgaria's cores and maybe even a little something extra. If you have an opportunity to do something like this, definitely go ahead and do it. Most likely you're either way gonna fight Hungary to at least take these provinces right here. So there we go. And once you defeat Hungary, focus on the provinces that I mentioned earlier, mainly in the Balkans. You don't really need to expand in the Pest trade node or in the Carpathia region. So what I'm going to do is give Bulgaria all of their cores back, then I'm going to take everything over here for myself, and I'm also going to get war reps and some money. And there we go. That's my war with Hungary right here. Pretty much done. I don't think I'll be fighting them ever again. I'm not really interested in expanding over here in my specific campaign. Although you could definitely go for it. They do have an additional gold mine up here, so why not? For your tier 4 government reform, I recommend grant land to the monasteries. Around a certain point, probably after you annex or before you annex Byzantium, you will want to give some of the estates the land rights privileges. because we will be struggling with GovCap a little bit until we hit Admin Tech 8. And there we go, now I've annexed Byzantium. You will be doing that around the 1490s as well. Make sure to full state everything that you take from them once you do that. After that, you will be able to become a kingdom, most likely. Once again, a reminder to keep lowering autonomy from time to time. Once your second truce with the Ottomans is up, go ahead and declare on them, take everything they have in the Balkans, and continue to expand over in Anatolia. I'll be doing a reconquest for the final Bulgarian core, and then I'll expand over in this direction a little bit. Right now I don't need Poland's help, but I will call them in to make this war faster. Of course, once you annex Byzantium, make sure to accept Greek culture as well. While I'm in this war with the Ottomans, I can notice that AQ has been shrunk down to just one province over here, and as we all know, they do have a lot more cores. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to separate piece AQ right here and make them my vassal. There we go. There's a pretty nice reconquest opportunity over here for me. Try and look for something like this in your game as well. And now that my war with the Ottomans is done, I'm simply going to transfer this over to Bulgaria, and I'm going to be giving them this core back right here, and taking some additional provinces over in Anatolia that I can release Eretna from, for example, and maybe some other provinces as well. There we go, maybe something like this. And that's my next war with the Ottomans done. Now I will go ahead and release Eretna. There we go, they received this one province, and these are all the provinces that we can reconquer from them. Maybe from the Ottomans if they stay alive, if not from Karaman, or maybe the Mamluks, or whoever expands over in this region right here. I can also release Girmian from a couple of provinces over here, but it's just a reconquest for these two, so no real need. And once you completely kick the Ottomans out of the Balkans, you will be able to take the mission End Turkish Rule, where your ruler gains a mill point, and until the end of the game you gain a +1 monarch military skill. Pretty nice. Of course, after you give Bulgaria all of their cores back, you can go ahead and annex them as well. I just need to wait a little bit to get relations up. After you defeat the Ottomans in your third war versus them, where you're going to own a sizable portion of Anatolia, after that, the expansion opportunities are going to shift to Anatolia, where we're either going to continue to pummel the Ottomans if they're still a decent size, or if not, if they're pretty small like they are in my game, you're going to continue to fight other nations that are located over here. Probably the Mamluks, maybe some other Beyliks if they exist as well. Now that I have relations with Bulgaria, I will start annexing them. A while ago, I noticed that Syria exists over here, probably when they broke free from the Mamluks with the help of the Ottomans, or due to some other circumstances. Either way, that doesn't matter too much. What does matter is they would accept a diplo-vassalization. So I started doing all of the things that you need to do in order to improve relations with them to the max. I allied them, I guaranteed them, I sent them gifts, I gave them subsidies, offered them mill access, influenced them as well, and now, after I've improved to the max, I only need to wait about a year or two for the opinion to improve by itself a little bit, and then I'll be able to diplo-vassalize them. This is another similar situation to what we did with AQ right here. We can reconquer their cores, and we can do the same thing with Syria on these cores right here. Although this is even better, since we don't actually have to take these provinces from anyone and then release them. We've just diplo-vassalized them, and they already existed, which means in our first war with the Mamluks right here, we can immediately do a reconquest on the Syrian and Eretnan, of course, cores. So, a very nice opportunity. Look for something like this in your game as well. It doesn't have to be with these guys. It could be with whichever nation around you. And now that relations with Syria are above 190, I'm gonna go ahead and diplo-vassalize them. That's perfect. Look for an opportunity like this in your campaign as well. And now that I've gotten Syria, I'll immediately be continuing my conquests over here in Anatolia by declaring on the Mamluks. They do look pretty powerful, but I feel like I can defeat them even without the help of any allies. We do have quite a few subjects. Either way, you'll be continuing your conquests as well. We pretty much started from over here, conquered the entirety of the Balkans, and now for the rest of the game, we're just pushing this way like this. In a normal Albania playthrough, you should focus on conquering the Balkans, Anatolia, the Mashriq, and Egypt, sort of an Eastern Roman Empire-ish type situation, but if you want to move on even further, you could go this way perhaps, or if you're going for a Roman Empire run or something, you can go this way. It's totally up to you. There's my declaration on the Mamluks, a reconquest for this Syrian core, for example. And there we go. Since I have loads of spare mill points right here, I will be bombing pretty much every single fort. Once you do get enough boats, you will be able to select your naval doctrine. I do recommend galley combat ability. Once colonialism spawns, I recommend that you start deving it over in this province right here. It is the cheapest province to develop it in. And once you defeat whoever you're fighting over here, give the cores back to your subjects if you have an option to do that. If not, simply take as much as possible without getting coalitioned or something like that. In my game, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give Syria all of their cores back over here. I'm going to give Eretna these two cores back over here. And then, since I have a little bit of war score left over, I will be taking a couple of provinces over here in order to connect my land, just like that. And there we go. Now I'm connected with these two subjects right here, and we've expanded quite a lot. Not specifically in Anatolia, in the Mashriq more than that. We've bypassed it a little bit, but it's simply a good opportunity that I did have to take advantage of. Don't worry if you don't conquer something like this in this early portion of the game. You're going to be going here later on as well. Remember, unless you get lucky with something like Syria or AQ like I did in my game right here, you're going to be expanding here. So if I didn't have Syria, instead of taking this, I'd take this. You get the point. You don't need me explaining peace deals. And there we go. That's my war with the Mamluks done. And there we go. Now I've annexed Bulgaria as well. By the way, I haven't declared on Hungary. I'm just helping out Poland. And by around the time the Age of Reformation comes around, your realm should look a little something like this. Basically, we started off as Albania in these two provinces right here, and after doing the initial setup, you either fought Serbia and Bosnia for your first war, where you full annexed Serbia and vassalized Bosnia so you can reconquer these cores and save some admin points, or you fought the Ottomans in your first war, where you took some provinces to release Bulgaria and Byzantium from. Either way, there's an argument to be made for fighting the Ottomans first, basically because of Hungary potentially breaking their alliance with you if you take these provinces right here, or fighting Bosnia and Serbia first, since they're the easiest targets if the Ottomans haven't guaranteed them. Either way, no matter which of these guys you fought for your first war, after that, while waiting for your truce with the Ottomans to expire, you focused on knocking down some minor Balkan nations, and they didn't even have to be minor. You could have also fought Venice or Hungary if that permitted it. And after that, after you took some more provinces over in the Balkans from minor or major nations, you should have waited for your truce with the Ottomans to expire, fought them again in order to take some provinces and give them back to Byzantium, give a little bit of provinces back to Bulgaria, and start expanding over in Anatolia a bit. After that, while waiting for your truce, again you focused on the Balkans, after which you should have wrapped up pretty much the entirety of the Balkans, unless of course Hungary fell under a junior partnership under Austria in your game, in which case this would still most likely be owned by Hungary over here, and you would fight Austria-Hungary later on once you expand your power base over here. But aside from that, you should have wrapped up the entirety of the Balkans, maybe with the exception of what Hungary owns. And after that, for your third war with the Ottomans, you took back the provinces for Bulgaria's cores if they still own them. If not, you fought someone else for it and expanded over in Anatolia a bit. And after wrapping up the Ottomans, you should have continued to focus on your conquests over in Anatolia, maybe by vassalizing some nations, reconquering their cores, like I did with the Retna and these two guys right here, basically fighting whoever is located right here. It doesn't have to be the Ottomans, it could be minor guys, it could be the Mamluks, it could be QQ. It's different in everyone's game. And this is sorta what your expansion should look like by the time the Age of Reformation comes around. Like I said, I did get lucky with the Syria vassalization here, the Syria Diplo vassalization, so that's why I own all of this right here. But either way, if something like this didn't happen in your game, you would take a province, for example, right here in your first war with the Mamluks to release Syria and reconquer their cores in the second war versus the Mamluks. Of course, by this point, we haven't only been focusing on expanding. Of course, Albania does start off with a poor economy right at the start, but after getting those war reps from the Ottomans, after knowledge sharing, after embracing the Renaissance, and after developing the gold mine in Kosovo, money shouldn't have been a problem anymore, and you should have focused on building some buildings by this point in the game. Now, I'm going to show you what I've built in my game, and you should look to have something similar by this point. These are all the marketplaces that I've built in all of the center of trade and estuary provinces. These are all the production buildings that I built in all the high-value trade good provinces, a couple of churches here and there, and that's pretty much it. As soon as you hit Admin Tech 8, you're gonna spam courthouses in literally every single province, and then maybe an army building here and there too. After you build all the relevant buildings, you will focus on upgrading centers of trade. The only one I upgraded is this one right here to spawn colonialism in. That's the province you're gonna spawn colonialism in. You can spawn the Renaissance right here unless you fight Venice super early and retake this core back. In that case, you're gonna spawn the Renaissance here, but if not, you're gonna do it in your capital. And I know in previous guides, I did move my capital over to Kosovo in order to lower the autonomy as much as possible and gain a little bit of dev discount once you develop the gold mine, but I don't think that's needed anymore. No need to move your capital over here. You could of course move it to Constantinople to make Constantinople your main trade node, and by controlling all of Ragusa downstream, you pretty much make Constantinople an end node when you start expanding this way as well, but that's totally up to you if you do end up moving your capital. So that's the economic aspect that you should have been focusing on. These are my alliances by this point in the game. Austria, which doesn't have any junior partners or subjects, the Pope, Poland, which does have Lithuania. Of course, you would have gotten Aragon and Hungary right at the start, but these guys aren't a guarantee to stay. Aragon usually gets pewed by Castile, and Hungary gets pewed by Austria, or we end up fighting them and then they get pewed by someone like Poland, for example, in my game right here. This is what my armies are looking like by now. Force limit is 79, which is pretty huge. I do only have one main stack right here, 2447, which is about correct according to the combat width at this point in the game, and I'm starting up a smaller stack right here that I'm gonna build up to the same size as this one. So pretty soon at this point you are gonna be running 2 armies. And I have this little navy right here, galleys and transports to help me beat up some of the guys that I'm fighting. Of course, later on you do want to build light ships to protect trade in Ragusa and Constantinople. After this point, you're gonna continue to expand in the same directions we've already been expanding in. We locked up the Balkans pretty early on, and now we're just pushing into Anatolia. I did explain this a couple of times earlier already, but the regions you need to focus on in sort of a normal Albania playthrough are the Balkans, Anatolia, the Mashriq, and Egypt. That's the region you sort of want to conquer if you're going for more wide gameplay, but this way you're going to conquer Caucasia, Persia, Arabia, everything over here to get to India. But if you're going for a Roman Empire playthrough, of course you're going to focus on going this way after you conquer Egypt, basically pushing simultaneously from the Balkans to Italy and from Egypt to the Maghreb, moving basically like this way. Whereas if you're going like this, you're going to open up a couple of routes of expansion over in this direction. So those are the regions you want to focus on expanding into. Obviously, we flipped to Orthodox after our first war with the Ottomans. You should be focusing on converting everything that you conquer. It is going pretty slowly right now until we fill up religious, but after that, it's going to speed up quite a bit, as we can see, and definitely set these guys to automatic if you have the ability to do so. Make sure that they don't get stuck in some of these right here, obviously. Keep checking from time to time, and keep using Orthodox icons as well. Of course, as Albania, there are a couple of great projects that you can take advantage of as well. The Rila monasteries right here are excellent for being Orthodox. You will be using the Hagia Sophia as well, along with the Parthenon. This one right here too, the Mausoleum at Hardikarnissus. So these are pretty much the 4 monuments that you'll be using heavily as Albania for pretty much the entire portion of the game. This is what we took for our first 2 idea groups, defensive and religious. An excellent and super fun opener for a defensively focused Orthodox nation such as Albania. For your 3rd idea group, I recommend picking up another mill one to buff up your army. Offensive or quality would be my pick right here, so go with whichever one of these 2 for your 3rd idea group. After that, for your 4th one, I recommend going with a money-making idea group such as economic or trade. It's totally up to you. So, defensive, religious, and then offensive or quality, and then economic or trade. After that, it's totally up to you. This is what we took for our first 5 government reforms. Later, when you stop playing with vassals, you could of course swap to expanded royal court or centralized monarchical bureaucracy. For tier 5, for even more defensiveness and leaning into that whole thing, you could of course go with the defensive stance for even more defensiveness, even more garrison size, and even more hostile attrition. Super fun watching armies simply melt away as soon as they step on one of your forts. So that's what I recommend for tier 5. For tier 6, I recommend aristocratic court if you're still playing with subjects, but later when absolutism comes around, take royal decree. For tier 7, I recommend meritocratic recruitment. For tier 8, empower the burghers or embrace the economic theory. For tier 9, take the 6 books of the Republic, or Leviathan if you still have subjects. And then for tier 10 and tier 11, all of them really good. Take whichever one you want at that point in the game. You won't make a mistake with either one of them. And like I said, around the time the Age of Reformation spawns, your realm should look a little something like this. If you're not that confident in your abilities, or if you're not sure if your game is gonna go like mine, this save file is available for all YouTube members in the Save Games Discord channel, and you can continue playing as Albania from this date forward. Let me know in the comments below what's the next nation that I should do a guide on. If you enjoyed this video, don't hesitate to leave a like, it really helps out a lot. And if you like the content and want to see more videos like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any of them. And you can become a member today and join the Discord, the link is in the description. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time with another EU4 video.